One of the worst things that's happened to the fitness industry as a whole is social media. Not only because of the lies that we've been talking about tonight, but also by the fact that, them slow rolling those videos and those pictures out and everything else. It's given everybody a completely unrealistic view of what they should look like.
What Facebook shows, but then I'll look at the comments and I never see any good comments. But they keep advertising. I guess it's a mushroom tea that you can drink to lose weight. I think it's called RYZE is the name of it, and I see it all the time. And I always mean to ask, but they guarantee for it to clean out your system and cause you to lose all this weight. And I just wondering, have you had any knowledge or experience with something like that?
So, mushrooms are one of those things, and I'm going more general to the answer here than specifically what you're saying. We'll get there. Mushroom seems to be one of those things that you'll see a study that says they're extremely effective, and then you'll see another study that says that they're completely worthless. It's all over the board. And when you have a situation like that, it takes digging just a little bit deeper to find out who's paying for the study. Because I'm not saying that anybody is just straight up being dishonest, but the simple economics of the fact is if you're a research scientist and I come to you and I say, I own a company that's making, this product, I want to prove that it causes weight loss. I'm going to pay you $750,000 to run this study. Now, you know that once that study's over, your money has just gone away. All I'm saying is it beyond the realm of possibility that you're going to look at those numbers in a way that makes me happy so that I may come to you again with another $750,000 to run an additional study for me later or to study a different product that I decided to make. You have to realize people are people and they're not going to cut off their nose to spite their face. And when it comes to studies, if you really want to go down the rabbit hole on that, I really recommend that you follow Lane Norton. Lane Norton does a great job of educating people on how to read studies. There are several factors when it comes to studies. How the study was structured. Was it double blind? Was it, controlled? Was it a human trial? Was it an animal trial? Then you get into meta-analysis, which is not a study itself, but rather sitting there and looking at multiple studies that have been conducted and finding the correlations between them. A lot of your really good meta studies will look at the parameters of the study and eliminate the ones that were essentially bad studies that were not set up correctly. Take those out first and then look at the ones that were structured correctly and come up with, we looked at 15 studies and this is what the majority of them say. This is the reason that you can turn on the nightly news one week and hear that eggs are a superfood and everybody should be eating 3 to 4 eggs a day, and then turn around a week or two later and this same news broadcast will have a report on eggs are going to give you a heart attack. Don't eat them. They're horrible. They're looking at independent studies. People have a tendency to go, well, if it was a scientific study, then it's on the up and up. Everything was perfect. It was structured just right. And that's just not true. So just because you see an advertisement that says we have scientific studies that back this, unless you look at the studies and you find out what the parameters were, was it double blind? How was it constructed? Did they turn around and and test anything that they found from that to verify. Don't fall for the "we have a scientific study, trust us, bro" approach that you see on tons of advertisements these days. Now, from what I have read on mushrooms in particular, I think that there is benefits as far as neurological, using them as a nootropic. Personally, I'm not saying it's not out there, but personally, I haven't seen anything that says that a mushroom can help you lose weight. It really doesn't make sense to me how that could work. But it's not like I've read I spend a lot of time in PubMed and I compare studies, and I've listened to Lane for years. And if you follow he does a really good job on Instagram and Facebook, or not Facebook, YouTube, both. I saw one that he just did this week where there's, this is a scientific study that blah, 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 blah. And then the first thing out of his mouth, this wasn't even a study. This is essentially a scientific opinion piece. There's no science behind it. This is this scientist's opinion. So it's one thing I always caution people. There's so many ads on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all these things that are selling, this is the miracle drug. This is the one thing you need to make the progress that, you hadn't been able to get. I'd be very, very skeptical of any ad that you see on social media, because if you just step back and you look at it, if you had let's say that you did develop a drink, that you drank it and you could lose 20 pounds. That would be TV ads. It would cost an arm and a leg, and it would be in every major store that you can think of. Now, if you wanted to scam somebody and try to reach out to the people that I don't want to do the work, I just want to take something and lose weight, you're not going to spend money on TV ads because you're never going to be able to make that money back selling a bogus product. But for real cheap, you can stick an ad on social media and catch somebody that's desperate and sell enough of them that investment and that advertisement was worth it.
I'm going to jump on there and piggyback on Lane Norton. Jason, if you don't follow him, you definitely should. He debunks a lot of these people get on there. Like you were talking about, like wasn't even a real study. But then there was one just recently where the lady was quoting a study, or she mentioned the study, but never talked about anything in the study. She tried to make it, she manipulated it to make it sound like it was part of it. And so he just tears it apart. That's that quote he's got, right? If you torture the data enough, it'll confess.
Exactly.
What to say.
And that's part of where I was getting at when I started there with, you can make numbers say whatever you want them to say. And if you're living and the money that you make is coming off of finding the facts that the person paying you wants you to find, you could say, okay, these numbers here prove it wrong, but I'm not going to mention those. I'm just going to use the ones over here that make it look good, and then make my sugar daddy look good so he keeps writing me a check.
I was going to say, you can take 5 minutes or 3 minutes and convince somebody on the same subject, either for or against. You could talk to somebody and talk them right out of supplements in 3 minutes, or you could convince them in 3 minutes to fill their cabinet, right? It's manipulating the information.
And they're relying on the fact that if they quote a study, you got to realize 99.9% of people are never going to look that study up because they don't know how to read it to begin with. So it's kind of a cop-out that a lot of people will quote studies just hoping that you take their word for it, knowing that you're never going to go to PubMed and look it up yourself and see what it says.
I saw another one where they were trying to People are using a gelatin that they're taking either with their food or they're drinking before they eat, and they were calling it the new Ozempic drink. And essentially, what it was a gelatin that you were drinking before you ate. And what happens is that the gelatin expands once it's in your gut and causes you to eat less, is technically what is happening. But it's a new trend that I recently heard of. I don't know if you've heard of this one yet or not, but drinking gelatin.
Yeah, the first versions of that was actually developed to help with acid reflux. So the idea was that this gel would prevent the stomach acids from coming up and kind of build a layer on top. The problem with that is your body able to digest that? Are you going to be able to get it back out of your system? What's that doing to your upper and your lower intestine? There's a lot of things that on paper sound really good, but then in the real world just don't work out the way that you think that they're going to. And this whole idea of people just developing this stuff, and you're getting by right now on the supplement side because supplements are no longer regulated. They had that passed here years ago. And then, peptides, let's just be honest, it's the Wild West. Anybody can develop whatever and say whatever and put it up for sale online.
And well, it's really amazing how all of us people gambled with our health before getting healthy by eating all the crap in the world and, just living bad lifestyles. And you have the same thing in the health industry where people are willing to gamble their lives for the sake of health and saying this works best or this works better or, this is the new thing. And even though they don't have studies, they're already taking it and risking probably bigger risk than they were when they were eating unhealthy.
Yeah, exactly. When it boils down to it, and when you're talking about your health and you're talking about what's healthy for you and what's going to lead to longevity, and like we talk about being able to get up out of the chair on your own when you're 85 and reach over your head and get peanut butter out of the cabinet all by yourself. You got no idea what this stuff's doing to you. And the best thing is eat right, work out, get enough sleep, stay hydrated. But everybody wants the shortcut. Now, I'm convinced that, my YouTube channel and my Instagram both aren't really growing that fast. And it's because I refuse to make insane claims that, this is all you have to do, or you don't have to worry about this at all, or, just take this drink or whatever. The truth is the truth. And unfortunately, the truth is boring. It's get off your lazy butt and eat right.
So another workout question and kind of another advertisement thing that I see all the time is these guys bragging about, if you want to look strong, go to the gym. But if you want to be strong, do military workouts. And I see all these guys that look like they've been in the gym working for 20 years, but they've only been doing military workouts for so many weeks or months.
All right, let me tell you the dirty secret behind that one. 99% of your fitness influencers online, you never see what their real workout is. They're going to show you whatever it is that they are making money off of. They're not going to show you what they really do. So just because the guy on the advertisement is jacked as all get out does not mean he did that by doing the workout that you're talking about that's in the advertisement. Just like a lot of influencers online, you see videos that they put out each week and you think, well, this guy's just absolutely ripped 24/7, 365 days a year. No, they're not. They go into a cut, they get down to where they want to be, they record a whole bunch of videos, they take a whole bunch of pictures, and then they come off of that cut because you can't live at 3% body fat all the time. You just feel like crap. and they come back up to where they feel good, probably somewhere around 10 to 12% body fat. And then they slowly release those videos and those pictures that they took right at the end of their cut. Don't
I
fall
get
for
that.
it.
But I see these guys, they look like Arnold Schwarzenegger back in the 80s and 90s, and they say they don't lift a single weight. It's impossible. It's got to be impossible.
Here's the thing. When you talk about military style workouts, you're talking about calisthenics. Okay. Now, I was in the Army. We did calisthenics all the time. That was what we did. The ones of us that wanted to build muscle didn't build it doing PT. We went to the gym in the afternoon on our time. Because the guys that didn't go to the gym and didn't lift weights, they were about that big around, and they could run 5-6 miles full speed and no big deal. You're not with calisthenics and body weight workouts. The major issue that you have there is, you know, that to build muscle, you need to be performing progressive overload. It takes progressive overload. If 20-pound curls, your body gets to where you can do that, you got to go to 25 and give it a little bit different stimulus. Now, if you weigh 180 pounds and you do 20 push-ups, how are you progressively overloading that? Now, I'm not saying that
you're not.
I'm not saying that calisthenics aren't good. They're really good for mobility and, you know, functional workouts to make sure your body can move the way that it's supposed to. But it would be real easy for me to develop a calisthenic workout, especially being former military, and say, hey, this is what we did. And go to the gym and find some guy that's eating trembolone sandwiches and shooting up 5 times a day and looks like a Greek god, and tell him, all right, come over here and let me film you doing some push-ups and some pull-ups, and we're going to tell everybody that this is how you got there. It's just not true. One of the worst things that's happened to the fitness industry as a whole is social media. Not only because of the lies that we've been talking about tonight, but also by the fact that, you know, them slow rolling those videos and those pictures out and everything else. It's given everybody a completely unrealistic view of what they should look like. And you're comparing yourself to something that you'll never live up to. Because you can take 2 separate guys and let's say you give them the exact same workout and you even give them the exact same steroids. There's a chance one of them comes out 4 times bigger than the second one. Because genetically he's predisposed to do that. Genetics plays a huge role in it also.
Well, that's what I've learned over the past year and a half, is that, you know, real muscle gain or, you know, weight loss, I mean, it takes time. I mean, you look amazing, but you've been at this for how many years now?
Coming up on 5.
Right. And I've been at it, you know, over a year now. And I'm like, man, I thought I'd be further along in this, but I mean, I'm nowhere where I started. I'm nowhere where I was, but at the same time, it took time to get to where I'm at. And look, I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, as long as you've been doing yours, you ought to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger today. But, you know, it just
not
doesn't
without
really,
the genetics that he has.
Yeah.
I won't.
It just, not without the genetics and not without all the other substances as well. I mean, the shooting up and stuff. And so, you know, I'm just saying it takes time, and then it takes also the time to keep it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, once you start getting there, it doesn't just stay. You have to keep working to keep it that way, or else you regress. You go back the other way.
Well, the good news is the maintenance is a whole lot easier than the progress of getting there. But, you know, let's take this into the real world and kind of put a picture in everybody's head that makes sense to them. I'm going to talk about 2 different people. We're going to talk about Brad Pitt in Fight Club. Everybody remember the way he looked in Fight Club? He was ripped, right? And he weighed about 165 pounds. Now, compare that to Alan Richardson on Reacher and doing a lot of other movies and everything now. The guy's a beast. Well, he's what, 6'6" and has completely different genetics. One of the things that really get in your head, body dysmorphia is a real thing. And all of us are real bad at picking somebody on a TV show or a movie and going, that's what I want to look like. That's what I want to get to. Without ever considering genetically, can you even get there? I mean, I could work for the next 20 years and say, I want to look like Alan Richardson. I ain't ever going to get there. Now, if I would be happy looking like Brad Pitt in Fight Club, that's more doable for me because of my genetics, my height, muscle insertions, and everything else. But we have this picture in our head. I mean, most of us were all pretty close to the same age. We grew up watching, Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone in the action movies in the 80s. And every single one of us, when we were a kid, like, that's what I want to look like when I grow up. And then you grow up and you realize, no matter what I do, I ain't going to look like Arnold. It just ain't going to happen. Heck, the guys that do it for a living don't look like Arnold. And you can take that even another step. Look at Ronnie Coleman in his prime when he was winning the Olympia. You put him on stage next to Arnold at his prime, and they look like two different species. So you have to decide, this is a realistic goal for me based on my build and my genetics. And that hit home for me because I keep up my FFMI. And it's basically tells you, going off of a number, once you get up around the 24, 25 on the FFMI, you've reached your genetic limit. You pretty much, that's the muscle you're going to have. And yeah, I had to take some time off because of the kidneys and everything else, and I'm working back there. But some of the pictures that I use for, in the books and on websites and everything else are pictures that I took when I hit about a 24.5 FFMI. That's as good as I can possibly look. And it don't matter how much I want to, how much more work I put in or what I do, I am not going to look like Ronnie Coleman. It is just slap impossible. So a big part of it is picking out a realistic goal and having enough sense to know when you get there, okay, I'm there, now let's maintain. And with social media, the way that it is, one of the things that it did is, where you used to have, you've always had genetic freaks that could walk into a gym, take a breath in, and gain 5 pounds of muscle. Well, maybe you saw them on TV. If there was a camera around and you happened to catch an episode of a show that they were on. But now with social media, everybody's got a phone in their pocket. They can record it, and we get the impression that there's genetic freaks everywhere, and we're not one because we're not working hard enough. That's just not the fact. Well, everybody starts this journey because they want to be healthy. And they're fine with that at the beginning. But then they start chasing these unrealistic expectations, and it leads them to start making decisions to do things that is unhealthy. And you can be at a point to where you're the best you've ever looked. Body fat's the lowest it's ever been. If you could show yourself a picture of where you are now, back when you started, you would have honestly told yourself, the minute I get there, I'm happy. And you're more driven and making bad decisions now than you were then, because body dysmorphia actually exists. And everybody's got to be careful of it.